Let's take a look at intergovernmental fiscal relations. Intergovernmental fiscal relations, also referred to as fiscal federalism, have been central to contemporary IGR for some time. Fiscal federalism describes the complexity of financial transactions, transfers of funds, and accompanying rules and regulations that increasingly centralizes national state, national local, and state local relations. Traditionally, many state and local governments have had weaker economic bases and less productive systems of taxation than the national government. There are two basic reasons for the revenue raising disparity among different governmental levels. First, local and state governments have been limited to geographic areas, often dependent on one or two products or services from which to extract revenues, for instance, tourism in Florida or coal in West Virginia. Second, different types of taxes yield different amounts of revenue from the same income bases. Grants and aid are money payments furnished by a higher to a lower level government to be used for specified purposes and subject to conditions spelled out in law or administrative regulation. It's been suggested that national funds assist states and localities with programs and projects that benefit citizens outside the borders of the recipient government. Administrative discretion in distributing funds is the smallest under formula grants, which are created by legislation and clearly specify the criteria for determining eligibility to receive funds. Administrative discretion is much greater in the case of project grants. With these, agencies' officials have wide latitude in deciding which states or local governments will receive funding and how much each will get. Formula and project grants are subtypes of categorical grants, which most commonly are used in kinds of national government assistance programs to state and local governments. Today, states receive more than two-thirds of all formula grants and act as conduits for the majority of project grants to local government. As Congress deliberated over expansion of successive aid programs, their main concern was ensuring that the national purposes of the programs were not lost by dividing up administrative responsibility among fragmented state agencies. One way to prevent this would have been to appropriate state agencies designated to receive given grant funds and to administer program activities under congressional authorization. One response from the national level was the single state agency requirement. Only one agency is designated to administer any individual grant and to establish direct relationships with its counterpart in the national grant. The development of intergovernmental administrative ties give rise to the new label for the federal system. The proliferation of grants and overlapping nature of them soon led to a growing concern about management of grants and the impacts they were having on recipient governments. These criticisms suggest several dimensions of politics of grants. One is the provision of essential public services and equality or inequality among jurisdictions in the levels of those services. A third dimension is the procedural pitfalls that can hamper applicant governments in their efforts to obtain grant assistance. Underlying all such concerns is a common theme: considerable conflict between elected state and local officials and the specialists of their own bureaucracies, as well as those in the national government's administrative agencies. The problems of coordination have been compounded at the recipient end of the aid pipeline by growing intergovernmental administrative linkages in horizontal as well as vertical dimensions. Likewise, there's been an increase of the phenomenon of substate regionalism. The picket fence analogy is evident because national, state, and local administrative officials all have active roles in substate regional functions.